Hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us in this session where Deborah and me will be talking about electronic invoicing mandates across Europe and how ecosio and Code10 can help you comply with all the legal requirements around the region. My name is Anna Shopovski, and I'm a managing partner at Code10. Also, an e-compliance product owner at the same company with over 14 years of experience in SAP consulting. And we have Deborah here with us as well.
Hi, everyone. So I am Débora. I'm a Global Partnership Manager at ecosio. I am in charge of developing strategic partnerships on a global level, and I have focused on everything that is EDI and e-invoicing, and I'm very happy to be here today to talk to you about e-invoicing, what it means, to cover some specific mandates that are coming up in 2026. So this is the agenda for this webinar today. I will start with a very quick overview of e-invoicing, what it is, what it means. I will talk about what PEPL is, what is this network, what it means as well, in aligned with the VITA initiative. I will then cover some specific requirements for Poland, France, and Belgium. These mandates are coming up in 2026. I will then cover ecosio global invoicing solution, how we can help companies stay compliant, how to get ready for e-invoicing, and then to finish off e-invoice implementation roadmap, and how Anna will then cover how can we help with the connector that we developed together with Code10 for SAP. So to start off with the hot topic of the moment, e-invoicing, I'll start by mentioning that the most famous directive, or at least the directive that we all heard about the most, which is the Directive 2014-55. It's essentially when they mandated that all governmental entities would receive or process electronic invoices. There is no mandate on the supplier side, so as a business, there is no requirement, legal requirement for that, but as a governmental entity, you would need to comply. What happened between 2014 and 2022 is that a lot of countries were seeing the actual benefits domestically of having this mandate implemented. So countries like Italy, Turkey, and other countries were seeing actual benefits for having this initiative. So they just ended up creating a lot of fragmentation. When you think about cross-border transactions, when you want to send documents from Italy to France to Germany, they just have their own system, and it's sort of a patchwork of fragmentation. So by introducing these requirements, slowly they end up creating this problem, which is now being looked at to be fixed through VITA initiative. So harmonizing all these systems across Europe, that's when they created the EN 16931, which is the semantic model that established to allow all the national systems to exchange information between them under the same format. Something that we're also seeing when we look at all these invoicing mandates is that there's a tendency for countries also outside of Europe that are already adopting similar modules, similar formats to try and create this standardized format and to be included in what is being created in Europe. Moving on to the e-invoicing context. So also I'm not going to focus very much on a definition of what it is in e-invoicing, but at its core, people might think that it's something new, that it's a recent concept, and especially with all these new requirements. But it's actually, if you look back, specifically more to the EDI piece, you would actually see that it has been around for quite some time, basically since the 60s. And it's all about exchanging information in a structured way automatically between two different systems. So it's safe to say that it's not something new in terms of technology, but it's the compliance piece that's changed everything. So basically, what is it? In terms of e-invoicing, it's the fully digital way of generating, sending, and receiving invoices. We're not just talking about getting rid of paper or PDFs, but we are also talking about standardization, automation, and real-time data exchange. So paperless, we get rid of paper altogether. We reduce costs associated with printing, posting, and annual manual work that has to be done. Structure, it means that these invoices must comply with a very specific structure format to have a seamless integration between all these different systems, and obviously automation. So invoicing, it enables basically automatic validation, processing, and obviously faster payments and streamlining order cycles. When you look at Latin America, they actually have been the pioneers when it comes to invoicing. Countries like Mexico, like Chile, like Peru, with e-invoicing mandates already in place for many, many years now. And basically what Europe did was essentially looking at Latin America, for example, Mexico, and how the VAT gap that they had was incredibly high, and how they were able to reduce it by implementing an invoicing real-time reporting system. So this is basically what Europe did, looking back, is to try to replicate that exact same system. So e-invoicing mandates are coming to Europe to combat VAT fraud, to increase transparency, and to digitize basically tax reporting, primarily to the VIDA initiative, so VAT in the digital age, and its emphasis on continuous transaction controls. These changes aim to provide all these different tax authorities with real-time data on transactions to improve the efficiency on VAT collection, and also to support the initial idea when Europe was created, the digital single market, and e-invoicing is seen as a crucial piece to that whole idea. So moving forward to PEPL. What is PEPL? A very brief description. PEPL stands for Pan-European Public Procurement Online. It's basically a global network that enables businesses and different governments to exchange electronic information in a standardized format, such as e-invoices, not only, also purchase orders, catalogs, supplier documentation, orders, shipping notes, pretty much any type of document. And this was developed in Europe by PEPL, is now used over 40 countries, so it's spread outside of Europe, with countries like Singapore, Australia, and others, like, for example, the UAE. So at its core, PEPL is not a software, a platform, but it's sort of a set of specifications and a secure network that ensures a smooth, fast, and standardized communication between businesses and governmental systems. And this allows communication also cross-border. And this is why PEPL is becoming sort of the hero when we talk about VIDA. I will explain here the 5-corner module for PEPL. So it's the basic model for PEPL. It divides the communication between 4 different parties. On corner 1, you have the sender. That's the organization that is sending the invoice. Then you have the sender's PEPL access point, which is corner 2. This is the responsible for sending the invoice to the actual network. Then you have in corner 3, the recipient's PEPL access point, which is basically the piece that receives the invoice from the network. And then corner 4 to finalize is the recipient, so the organization that receives this invoice. An important aspect of this model are the PEPL access points. These access points facilitate the secure exchange of all these electronic documents in a reliable way within PEPL network. They ensure that the messages are sent and received correctly, and offer services such as validating documents against PEPL specifications. So to enable communication within PEPL network, 2 important components are used. I'm not going to deep dive on this, but we have the service metadata publisher, which is the SMP, and the SML, which is the service metadata locator. Basically, the SMP contains information about the participating parties, such as technical capabilities, document formats that they to support, and the SML acts like sort of a central directory that points to the correct SMP for any given recipient. So this is the basic 4-corner module for PEPL. And now we have here sort of the next level that we are also seeing, the PEPL C2C 5-corner module. This is an extension of the traditional 4-corner, adding a 5th piece, a 5th entity, which is the central tax authority platform. to facilitate continuous transaction controls. This government-owned and authorized platform receives the invoice data in real or near real-time to ensure tax compliance and reporting, creating a more secure and automated financial data flow for businesses and governments. And the key participants includes the seller, the seller's access point, the same way for the fourth corner, but then you add the central tax platform. Like I mentioned, you have the seller creates and sends the invoice. You have the sender's AP, which is a certified service provider that validates the invoice. You have the receiver's AP as well, which is again the certified service provider that receives the invoice. You have the buyer, which is the person who receives the invoice into their accounting system. And then the fifth piece, you have the central tax authority platform, which is basically a governmental platform that receives a copy of the invoice or only of just the tax data, validating and logging into for real-time reporting and for audit purposes. Now, talking about what I mentioned before, that PEPL was originally created for Europe, and we have other countries adopting PEPL as a national system for invoicing. The PEPL PINT format, so PINT stands for PEPL International Invoice, is an advanced next generation PEPL specification for creating global electronic invoices designed to replace the current BIS Billing 3.0 standard by offering a simple, unified data model for both domestic and international transactions. So this provides a standardized structure for invoicing data. This specific format simplifies cross-border invoices and aims to make international electronic exchange as easy as sending an email. Something that happened was that countries like Singapore or Australia were having a hard time adapting to this specific format because it was very much created with European businesses in mind. So this is why this extension was created. This is also based on the EN 16931 that I mentioned as well. So the standard for invoicing, which ensures a very high level of data accuracy and compliance. Now, moving on to the mandates that are coming up in 2026, like I mentioned before, invoicing is not optional. It's not optional anymore. It's not merely a legal obligation, but it's a major driver for digital transformation for companies across Europe. And here we can talk about the VITA initiative. It's one of the largest VAT reforms ever undertaken. This UE initiative is a major driving force behind the push for all these mandatory invoicing and real-time digital reporting requirements across Europe. We can talk about continuous transaction controls. So e-invoicing mandates often incorporate CDC models that allows tax authorities to collect transaction data directly from businesses' systems in real time or near real time. We can talk about standardized formats. The push for e-invoicing includes, obviously, the adoption, as I mentioned, of the standard EN 16921 to ensure that all these different systems can talk to each other and that we can ensure an efficient data exchange. So talking about Poland. Poland is mandating B2B invoicing through its national invoicing system called the KSAF, beginning February 1st of 2026, so only a few months down the road, with a final deadline for all VAT registered businesses on April 1st, 2026. Penalties for not compliance will start on January 1st, 2027, following a phased rollout for large companies and then smaller entities. Foreign businesses without a Polish tax presence for a fixed establishment are exempt, but the system is free and will become a pillar of Poland's continuous transaction control model to enhance tax compliance and security for B2B transactions. So some of the key aspects of this Polish invoicing mandate, you have the Central Pola platform called the KSAF. It's a government provided free to use platform. It will serve as the central hub for issuing, receiving, and archiving invoices for all commercial B2B transactions. And invoices must follow a structured XML format, specifically called FAVAT schema, and they must be submitted to the KSAF platform. So in terms of document flow, the KSAF platform, what it does is it verifies timestamps and assigns a legal invoice ID, a number called numbers KSAF, both for outbound, so issued, and inbound received invoices. And all these invoices must pass through this process with integration handled either manually via the KSAF web portal or via an API integration, which is obviously the most recommended way to do it. This is what we call a clearance module, when we have a governmental platform involved in the process directly in charge of making these invoices legal. So the KSAF portal validates each invoice before they can be considered legally valid and before they can be delivered to the buyer. And businesses, this is something very important, they have to make sure that the KSAF ID is used throughout the entire invoice lifecycle. So ecosio's solution is fully compliant with the Polish invoicing mandate under the KSAF, including the format transformation, the authentication, and the submission for inbound document processing. When it comes to France, France is quite a complex, has a kind of complex workflow and with a lot of business cases. It's to introduce mandatory C2Cs with a rollout between 2026 and 2027. And the goal here is obviously to reduce tax evasion and modernize their VAT collection and fiscal monitoring. This begins with three main pillars for France. The first one would be with the mandatory invoicing for domestic B2B and B2G transactions. The second pillar would be the mandatory e-reporting for cross-border B2B transactions and for domestic B2C transactions. The third and final pillar has to do with public invoicing portal, and this is about the central exchange infrastructure. In France, B2D invoicing has been mandatory for all suppliers since January 2020, and the VAT gap at the time in France stood firmly at around 14 billion. This is a huge amount, and it was the second highest just behind Italy. So there was a really big push behind this invoicing mandate. B2B and B2C mandate is sort of a continuation of the electronic invoicing obligation for all commercial relations with the public sector. The new legal framework for e-invoicing in France is part of its wider digital transformation and VAT gap reduction strategy. So France's e-invoicing mandate requires all VAT registered companies to switch to e-invoicing, so electronic e-invoicing for domestic B2B transactions, with the phased implementation starting September 1st, 2026 for large and mid-sized companies and September 1st, 2027 for SMEs and micro enterprises. All companies must be able to receive e-invoicings by September 1st, 2026. So they must be able to receive the structured invoice in the structured format, mandatory by law. This reform mandates that all domestic B2B invoices must be issued and received electronically, while other selected transaction and payment data, so e-reporting, must also be reported to the French tax authority. In terms of compliance, PAs, which are the platform certified to be able to provide this invoicing service, required to support at least 3 different types of invoicing core formats. We're talking about Facture X, hybrid of PDX and XML. We're talking about UBL 2.1, and we're talking about SII. Any other structured format that complies with the EN 16931 and local requirements can also be used if it's agreed between both parties. All the invoicing data must be validated and transformed to ensure that it meets the French technical and legal standards before submission. Traceability and audit trails must also be maintained throughout the life cycle of each invoice. In terms of document flow, we are talking about, like we see here in the image, a decentralized exchange with validations and reporting to the PPF via network of certified providers. So the PAs, which in this case ecosio is, be able to do this. Moving on to the last mandate that we'll be covering it today is Belgium. And Belgium is transitioning into a fully digital VAT compliance environment with the structure e-invoicing becoming mandatory for B2B transactions starting 1st January 2026. So just less than 2 months to go. This mandate builds on Belgium's experience with B2G invoicing, where PEPL is already in widespread use. So Belgium is very much committed to extending PEPL as the national standard for all B2B transactions, both domestic and eventually cross-border. To make it clear, starting from January 2026, Belgium will use the PEPL 4-corner module. And the idea is that in 2028, it will be updated to the 5-corner module to include real-time reporting to the tax authority. Until then, business can use basically any format standard under the EN 16931 standard agreed between the parties. This approach is considered sort of future-proof as because it aligns with the future national and European digital near real-time reporting obligations. So the VITA initiative, making it very, very beneficial for taxpayers to adapt to PEPL's technological requirements now. In terms of penalties, so what happens if a business fails to comply with this invoicing mandate in Belgium? There's a graduated penalty system that has been introduced for specific cases like errors or non-compliance. The first offense will be something like 1,500 euros. The second offense will be around 3,000 euros. And the third offense within a 3-month period would be up to 5,000 euros. So I talked a lot about these e-invoicing mandates and compliance requirements. So I'm gonna go through the best part, which is basically how can ecosio help you stay compliant and navigate all these complex e-invoicing requirements. Ecosio, to give a little background, is a company based in Vienna, Austria, and we are a part of Vertex. Vertex is an American company very much focused on tax determination and VAT compliance. Together with Vertex, we offer full control across the invoicing lifecycle from tax determination to real-time transaction controls. And Eddie, we make a global compliance very manageable. All the communication between businesses and their customers, so providers, logistics partners, and invoicing platforms, all this critical communication is handled and connected by all our single platform. We don't wait for problems to arrive. We have a team dedicated to monitor our solution 24/7 to make sure that everything stays up to date and that we are up and running and stepping in proactively whenever any issues appear. This is also very important, not only when we talk about EDI, but specifically when we talk about invoicing, because there are always a lot of changes and updates, and more specifically talking about the invoicing formats. And our team is 100% dedicated to monitor those changes and then deploying them into the company's environment to make sure that they're always compliant and that they don't need to worry about anything related to invoicing. It's basically a 100% fully managed solution. With ecosio, a single cloud-based connection links you to every supplier, every platform, or even every tax authority. There's no infrastructure to manage and no need to juggle custom or very specific integrations. We can connect directly to any ERP and we can handle the rest. Or to handle any partner connection, like in this case, together with Code10. It's a solution that it's built to scale and it's very much designed to simplify. When it comes to EDI and invoicing for success, it needs more than just the right software. You need a very strong platform, you need a reliable network, and you need expert service. Only when you have all three come together, can you achieve a smooth and scalable integration? And this is something that we can proudly say and we can proudly offer our customers. And aligned with that, like we mentioned here, I'm here with Anna. We have partnered with Code10 to develop a specific connector for SAP to help you stay compliant with all these e-invoicing requirements and mandates. And I will let Anna now step in and present her side of the webinar.
Thank you very much, Deborah. So yes, as Deborah mentioned, we have worked very closely with ecosio to provide and to bring closer to customers and to companies all that wonderful work that ecosio has been doing in staying compliant, investigating, and being up to date with all the legal requirements, and connect that platform with your SAP system. So why Code10? We have the experience and we have the knowledge. So we've been implementing SAP projects from technical perspective throughout the last 2 decades. And we've learned so far that the big enterprises and the big companies, they have a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different ways of posting invoices and processes that need to stay compliant. And we know that this electronic invoicing and the compliance is not the primary business of anyone, but it's something that everybody should do. And we want to make the life easier for everybody. And as Deborah said, ecosio 2 and Code10, we have scalable solutions, and we want to not only think about the requirements today, but also look at the future, because this is a snowball, right? This is something that is here to stay and will grow, and we need to make sure that everybody's compliant with all the current and upcoming legal requirements. And that's why we have to keep in mind all the life and all the movements happening within one ERP system, right? Within SAP, that can mean acquisitions, mergers, carve-outs, and so on. So we always need to be prepared and one step ahead. Thank you. So having this in mind and working very closely with ecosio, we have developed one cockpit, one hub that is ready to connect your SAP system with ecosio. We have major rules that we follow when implementing this e-compliance hub, and that is that we have to have everything centralized, right? We want to make things simple and easy to use for everybody, so we want to have everything in one place, meaning one central hub where we can have all the documents, all the invoices, delivery notes, etc., issued or received, that we need to be aware and we need to monitor the compliance of. We can use the infrastructure that you have. So you don't need to implement another system or another technology in order to use our connector with ecosio. So whether you have PIPO, integration suite, or a non-SAP middleware, we can work with that without any issues to make sure that all the aspects of security of the communication and warranties are covered. The solution is very scalable. So we realize that there are new countries that will be added, new company codes and mandates to your system. So this will be easily scaled and easy to maintain. And also we are very aware of the role management that needs to be applied over here. So everybody sees what they need to see. We don't open everything to everyone. So we have a strict role management where we limit the access only to what is necessary. How is the architecture? So the architecture is built out of 3 pillars, let's say. The first is the compliance hub with its extractor, where we can extract from SAP format to Code10 compliance hub format, which is basically the UBL XML that Deborah was talking about, is widely accepted within the whole, well, not only European, but world mandates. We convert over there all the relevant documents that can be client invoices, vendor invoices, delivery notes, tax reports, etc. We do the corresponding mapping, and we apply the correct actions for each and every process. Poland, for example, has different steps, while France has different different steps for all of these legal requirements, and we implement all of those together with the communication with ecosio and the reception of the corresponding responses. So the middleware, as I said, is not an issue. We are agnostic to this system. It can be installed in all of the main ones in the market, from where we connect to the ecosio integration hub in a secure and safe manner. And having said that, I don't want to keep a lot of theory here. I will leave you with the demo so you can see the system and see how it really works.
So here we see how an FI invoice is being posted. After saving, we can go to the hub and see that it is visible there. We refresh and we see the document created. This is the ID number. And from here, we can display the invoice in its UBL XML format. We see all the relevant data over here, header and line items as well. And going back, we can now submit this invoice to the ecosio platform. We see the status has changed. We have now the document sent successfully, and if we go to the ecosio platform, we can see that there is a received document from our system, right? So if we refresh, we can see that the process continued with the next step. The invoice has been forwarded to the XEF government portal. And from SAP, we can check the status and we can see the received response from the government themselves. So here, as you can see, we can see the XEF document number, the reference that we need that makes this invoice valid and legal. And also we can check the status again, not only in the moment of reception, but further for any future reference that we might need. Now, for the inbound invoices, we have in the ecosio portal 2 processed invoices that should be sent to our SAP system. We fetch these received documents, these invoices issued to us, and they have been fetched to our SAP system. In the same hub, if we refresh, we can see those 2 documents, those 2 invoices appear in the line with the rest. So here again, we can see the UBL format of the received invoice. We can check all the details. And then from here, we can post the invoice. If everything is okay, we can confirm and post the invoice. We can navigate from here to the posted invoice, so the SAP standard transaction, and to see that this is all correct, right? We do the same with the second invoice. So just for your reference, we do all these steps manually here for the sake of the demo, right? To be able to see what are the steps that are being taken in this process. Obviously, when we are dealing with big volume of invoices, these processes are automated. So we have background jobs that are scheduled to fetch, to send, or to check status of all these invoices with their corresponding approval process and workflow. So everything is not posted automatically always. If they need to be reviewed or approved previously, they go through the corresponding workflow and they're posted according to the company's rules.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for staying with us. Hope it was very informative for you. Débora, thank you for your presentation and your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. If you have any questions around e-invoicing, please feel free to contact me directly or Anna for the connector, and we are very happy to help you with any of your questions.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.